Cali X Boxing here with D Style Boxing on this Sunday evening. Sunday evening. I really wanted to go live tonight, and you and I discussed this. Is we wanted to completely separate the debacle that was Tyson Fury from what we thought was great boxing last night and a great fight and a great round of the year against Shock
Yeah.
Foster versus Rocky Hernandez. So we're going to talk about that to open up the week fresh tomorrow and really get out our thoughts about what's going on with what happened yesterday with the whole Tyson Fury thing. Good Lord, man. Um, I just say we just start with this and start. What was this yesterday, D Style?
Well,
What?
let's start this with Calix. I cooked for quite a bit, let's hear you out. Let start us out. I said a lot yesterday, so you can pick it back up, whatever from yesterday, and we could go from there.
I I'm watching this and I'm watching Tyson Fury and my expectations coming into the fight. And look, I said my expectations coming in were Tyson Fury, quick tune up. He's gonna make a gazillion dollars, right? This is what he does, and then he'll show up, and then he's a scam artist running his little scam here, all right, his Ponzi scheme, and it's sort of a la Floyd Mayweather, late stage Floyd Mayweather, right? It's low risk, high reward. I'm telling you what I'm doing. I'm telling you what I'm doing. Low risk, high reward. I'm telling you I'm robbing the bank. I'm admitting to it. You're going to watch me do it and I'm going to have fun while I do it. And Tyson Fury's super fans are sort of similar to what we used to call the Flomos, right? In that they cheer this stuff on. They just cheer it on. They egg it on and they're like, yes, yes, do it, Tyson. Yes, you're the Gypsy King. Yes, you're the greatest heavyweight of all time. Yes, you're the greatest heavyweight of this era. And you're just sitting by watching this stuff, right? And you're just kind of disgusted by it. And by the way, I've been saying for years, this is just we're in a terrible era of heavyweight boxing. Some would say good, some would say average. I would just say terrible. I just think this is historically weak heavyweight division. It's bothered me for quite some time now, for years now. And I've called it out how journalists have called this a great heavyweight era, how journalists have compared a guy with 6 title fights. D-Style, that's what we're looking at right now. Tyson Fury has 6 career title fights. 6. And half of them are against one guy. Most of those 6 are rematches, title fights. 6. And we're comparing him to all-time great heavyweights and saying he's the greatest of them all just because he's bigger. And then we watch a guy who is a cruiserweight come in this division and consolidate all of the major belts except one, disproving that theory right in front of everyone. And we're still calling this the guy the greatest heavyweight of all time because he's bigger than everybody else. And he's got 6 title fights. So he puts this on the line against a guy who is 0-0, right? A novice, just coming off the street, 22 months inactive, retired UFC fighter. So we all expect, this will be a good laugh, right? Just they're going to have their good laugh. They build this thing up. And by the way, I have my thoughts on the whole Saudi thing because that whole thing looks unsustainable to me. And that's for later on. But I'm watching this and it's evident early on that, all right, Ngannou looks pretty comfortable in there. And I saw Paulie Malignaggi allude to this last night. I'm watching a clip of him. And he's talking about how Ngannou's feet were different than other UFC fighters when they fight in boxing matches. And people who don't understand that, who haven't been in gyms, the stance of even guys we call strikers in the UFC, their stance is completely different. They have to
Right.
stand. They can't stand with their toes pointed towards their opponent because they have to kick. So they have to pivot when they kick. So he's shuffling. He's not just following. He's shuffling and he's countering Tyson Fury. And I'm watching this. And I'm saying, okay. And then I see Tyson Fury land a flush right, and Ngannou walks through it, and Fury's like, okay. And then we go on, and we get to the third round. And my text messages are just going off. Like the third round. It's like, holy crap. He knocked him down. He knocked him down. And it's evident at that point, you see his reaction that carrying doesn't involve being knocked down. Carrying doesn't involve being countered consistently. And then he gets in the middle rounds, and you see this isn't a carry job. He's fighting for his life in there against a guy who is 0-0. And it gets embarrassing at that point. To the fifth round, it's embarrassing at this point, D-Style. And I saw you live yesterday, and I would agree with you. If Ngannou comes in there in the first round and just knocks Fury out, you say, okay, maybe lucky punch, maybe flash punch, but he's boxing with Fury in there. The lineal and WBC champion, the heavyweight champ, the greatest fighter of heavyweight of our era, right? The baddest man on the planet. He's boxing with him. He's countering him. They're landing shot for shot. This is a toss-up fight. This is a close fight. Going into the 10th round, D-Style, this is basically a toss-up according to the betting odds. And I'm watching this and I'm like, this is embarrassing. This is completely embarrassing. And I gotta be honest, I wasn't scoring the fight. I watched it again just to watch this. I actually had Ngannou winning the fight by a point. I thought the knockdown was the difference in the fight. And I don't have any other word except embarrassing. This is embarrassing. And Tyson Fury should be embarrassed. And his behavior after the fight, embarrassing. How he kind of just, he gives his little interviews and he half-hearted trash talk to Usyk and, no, we're not going to do the fight December 23rd. Warren's out there saying, we get to pick when we do the fight. So, we're going to have to lick our chops and then we'll fight. And it's just the whole thing was disgusting. It stunk to high heaven. To have this build up, and it was clear what it was supposed to be, and then what it ends up being, just embarrassing. And I don't know how you feel about this. I saw you talk yesterday about the macro level, but I do feel like we need to be raking Tyson Fury and his hardcore fan base, who have been calling this guy the greatest heavyweight of all time, who have been making excuses for everything this guy does. The over-marination, the multiple retirements, the calling out of fighters and then saying, nope, you're not, your time's not yet. Nope, I'm the Gypsy King. I get to call when you're, all this stuff. We need to be calling those guys out. We need to be raking them over the coals. And I have more thoughts on that in a minute, but I want some of your thoughts on, just how you feel about that and just your overall thoughts.
Ladies and gentlemen, and well said, Calix, and I'll just add some points here. But ladies and gentlemen, this stuff, it doesn't just happen. All right? Sometimes things, the story behind it you got to go back a little bit. All right? So this is not, I just want to make sure people understand this. This is not Monday morning quarterbacking the point of that the heavyweight division is weak as fuck. Alex and I can go all the way back to Robodope Radio days, to Hailstorm Sports days. Mm-hmm. We go all the way back then to talk about how the best athletes, the best big men, are just not going to boxing.
No.
Okay? Well, you guys got to understand, maybe a UFC champion doing good in boxing shouldn't be that shocking to us when a failed basketball player, Deontay Wilder, became a heavyweight champion. He won a bronze medal. After being in boxing for 1 or 2 years, the dude medaled in the Olympics. Okay? And when I bring that up, so what? It was weak. I guess it was then, right? People need to understand. It's not that odd. Vitaly Klitschko was a kickboxer before he was a boxer. Now, granted, he didn't do it in his first pro fight, but he is one of the most dominant heavyweight champions we've had in a long time. Anthony Joshua was running sprints, right? But since he was running 11s and not sub 10, he had to go to boxing, all right? That's just the reality. He took up the sport late, became heavyweight champion. So, but this is the era, right? Where I need to hear, Tyson Fury, he's the best. He would have beat Ali. You know what? I never want to hear anybody say this motherfucker would beat a George Foreman, a Muhammad Ali. It's embarrassing to even think.
I don't want to hear Marciano, Frazier, just because those guys, dude. Tommy Morrison, Ray Mercer, dude, the dudes, they have to realize how embarrassing their takes were, and they need to either go sit in timeout or they need to come out and apologize. They need their
prisoners
penance.
of the moment with simplistic thinking. Well, he bigger. He beat Wilder, big puncher. Him big. Him could take punch. He fight full thumb. He beat anybody. What Ali gonna do? Big guy. What was Ali gonna? You know how fast Ali was? Ali was lightning fast. And you know what? And I've been saying this for years. You know, people, they try to break down Ali and they're like, oh, see, he couldn't really fight on the inside. And like, let me tell you something. Ali could do that to a certain degree, but he was fighting in an era with very good inside fighters. All right, well, where that didn't stand out like that. Okay? He was in an era fighting against like really like elite 0.001% athletes is what he was fighting. Norton, amazing athlete. Well, I don't know if he's still playing, but where did his son play, Calix?
Who was that?
Norton's son. He played in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
That's the type of athlete that he was. Probably a better athlete than his son. These were NFL caliber level heavyweights that we had. We don't have Tony Thompson, Deontay Wilder are not elite level athletes of that degree. They're not. Mm-mm. So because Fury beat those guys, all of a sudden he's the greatest heavyweight of all time. It's ridiculous to say that. I tweeted out, ironic enough, yes, it's the division of the giants, but in boxing, the heavyweight champions, the best heavyweights are like the tallest midgets in the sport of boxing. Mm-hmm. In comparison. It's a weak era. It got better because they were actually fighting each other, so they made it fun. Okay? That's all it was. That's all it was, guys. There's a reason why fat, out-of-shape dudes like Andy Ruiz are in the mix. Mm-hmm. There's a reason for that. So that's number one. That's a lot to do with it. It's been smoke and mirrors. A halo effect is what it's been. That's all it's been this whole time. I wasn't complaining. I like the fact that we were fighting each other. It was a start. That's the only way they're going to get better. But what happened? They started stalling anyway. All right? Yes. Like that's what happens. Now, this is a boxing overall problem, not just heavyweight problem, but
the top four heavyweights that everybody praises, they've fought a combined 4 times this year, including Deontay Wilder has 0 fights.
They could have been fighting each other, sharpening their swords, because steel sharpens steel, but they weren't doing it.
And we would be forgiving if they did. And this is my point. People are going to bring up the Otto Wallin fight. We all know Tyson Fury fights down his competition. He takes some fights more seriously than others. I get that. And I get that some exhibition matches in the past have happened, but this is an official fight that was sanctioned, and you're putting a heavyweight, whatever this is, whatever, and it's confusing as to what they're even putting on the line. The WBC doesn't put their belt on the line, but then he's not the Ring Magazine champion, but people are saying he's out there lineal. Fair enough. But it's a sanctioned fight, and you're putting that mythical title on the line, and you wet the bed. And people need to understand that in this era, and I talked about this leading to Spence versus Crawford, there's not as much forgiveness for these fighters because we barely see them. And sometimes when we see them come out, they fight in fights like this where they're fighting a guy who's a rookie, like literally a rookie. This is his first fight. So, no, we're not offering you forgiveness if you have a bad performance against this guy and get a gift decision. I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry, Tyson Fury super fans. You're not getting that. You're not
What
getting
they
it.
don't understand, Calix, is that boxing used to have the supreme athletes. Those supreme athletes now, they're playing in the NBA and they're playing in the NFL. Okay? They're going to other sports. They're not coming to boxing. There's a whole other thing about that, right? But that's relevant. That's very relevant because you need to put that in perspective when you rate these guys. All right? You need to put it in perspective. And unfortunately, people lack perspective, right? Wow, Tyson Fury, he moves, he's fast. Like, yeah, I guess for his size, but he's not that fast compared to a lot of the all time greats. He isn't,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't see the skill level like that. I remember I pointed out how like one of the knockdowns in the third fight against Wilder. This is a world championship fight for the heavyweight championship of the world. Wilder swings and misses. Fury like loads all the way from Australia, and he lands a punch that any all-time great would have seen a mile away. The most telegraphed counter ever. And he landed that shot and spun Wilder in the air and knocked him down. And I'm like, look, it was a sight to see that knockdown, but this is heavyweight championship boxing, and these guys are getting like. I mean, it made it exciting. Look, I'm not one to get mad at guys having flaws, and it makes for exciting fights. That's not even what I'm saying. You and I both agree that was a great fight, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
But it was not a great fight between two great fighters.
They
Right?
tried to make Fury versus Wilder trilogy out to be Ali versus Frazier trilogy, and it just wasn't.
There's no way.
It was a great rivalry between two good heavyweights in a not so good era. That's what we have, and it doesn't take away the enjoyment that I have from it. But we got to keep it real, man. Like our standards, this needs to be highlighted, and this was exposed yesterday. For the people out there saying this wasn't a black eye for boxing and we're taking it too seriously, I got news for you. You need to hear the UFC fans out there, and this is what I would advise people to do, by the way, is don't fight with those UFC fans and MMA fans online because they won yesterday. They might not have gotten an official result, but they won.
Yeah.
And you have to focus on what you can control, and you can't control that debate right now. And what I would advise you to do is let Tyson Fury and his legion of brain dead super fans go fight that fight. That should be their penance. Go let them handle that. All right. And what I don't want to see us do is what we call in gambling chase money. And what I don't want to see this end up being is a tailspin into more crossover fights because
it's going to happen, like, Alex.
But this is where I think we're going to disagree. Is I don't want to see fighters out there playing Captain Save a Hoe because Tyson Fury was a hoe yesterday, and forgive me for saying that. He wet the bed. He put everything on the line, and he did it for a reason against a UFC guy that he felt like he was going to make a lot of money and rob the bank, right? And it backfired on him. And unfortunately, despite and I've talked to Chauncey about this, and I think Chauncey's wrong. Sorry, I'll let him on my channel to explain his position, but he thinks this isn't an indictment on boxing. It very much is. It very much is. And the UFC fans are going to pounce on that. They're going to MC Hammer dance all over it. And good for them. They won yesterday. I'm not going to battle those dudes. Tyson Fury, he needs to figure that out. All right. If he wants to get back with Ngannou and do it again, let him go do that. But what I don't want to see is a scenario play out in which Tank Davis feels like he has to fight O'Malley to get back for boxing. And Canelo Alvarez has to fight Conor McGregor because he has to get back for boxing. It looks sad. It looks stupid. And it makes us look small. And on top of that, it takes us away from where we need to be in boxing, which is where Glenn Jennings said we need to be. We need to get back to weight class business. We need to get back to Tim Tszyu versus Bud Crawford, Canelo versus Benavidez. We need to get back to basics. Tank versus Shakur Stevenson. Instead, we're talking about Tank versus Pacquiao and Mayweather versus Pacquiao exhibition too. Stupid stuff, like absolutely stupid stuff. And yesterday exposed all of this. It exposed all of this. We are a circus act over here. And boxing
100%.
fans, in a lot of ways, we're complicit in this because our standards for our fighters are lower than ever. We were calling this dude yesterday that you see right there on the screen,
Well, I
laying on
wasn't,
his
but
back. But a lot of people, these are
it
journalists,
was.
D-Style,
I know what you're saying. Yeah, I got you.
content creators, the greatest
And,
heavyweight of
and,
all
and here's the
time.
thing, Calix. Like, here's the thing. I'm tired of, like, when I bring up the greats of the past. This goes to all you snarky, snot-nosed motherfuckers out there. I'm tired of the whole, it's nostalgia. You know what? Fuck you. Boxing was the most popular fucking sport in the world for decades, for a century. The heavyweight championship of the world was the most prized possession in all of sports. The respect boxing had amongst all its peers and athletes was up there. Like, that is just the truth. Covers of Sports Illustrated, covers of all magazines. Okay, on Arsenio Hall. From you, I don't need to like keep going with this, do I? Worldwide sports. It ruled. It wasn't college football that ruled Saturday afternoons. It was boxing. It was boxing. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Boxing, that's facts. That's not nostalgia. It was greater. It was better. It was a better product. They fought more often. There were wild-oiled machines that were better fighters. But because you live today, oh, no, today's better. These motherfuckers ain't better. Are you? And this, I'm talking about all weight classes, by the way. Mm-hmm. Overall, you have, look, we have throwbacks. Crawford, Canelo, Inoue, we got them. But overall, we don't. That's just the reality. It's nostalgia. You're just being nostalgic. Like get the fuck out of here, won't you? Are you kidding me?
This picture right here represents...
Roberto Duran was old and fat and won an MMA match.
Yeah.
Old and fat. These fuckers, I don't give a fuck. They used to be wolves back then. Today, they're domestic dogs. I'm comparing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're going to say it to their face? I'm a fucking regular civilian. Of course, they could beat me up. So what? Like, they always resort to that. Are you going to say it to them? Stop being stupid. This sport of boxing, this obsession with, it's a business. Boxing isn't a sport like other sports. It's a business. It's about making a lot of money. Well, that's what you did on Saturday. All right? You made a lot of money, okay? It was a nice circus act. Good job. Keep doing that. Keep being fans of the sport, and instead of talking about it like a sport and expecting it to be a sport, and keep trying to be like behind the scenes or whatever, and acting like it's a business for everybody. No, it's a business for the people in the business. For everybody else, it should be a sport, and we should be seeing the best fighting the best. We should be seeing fighters active and defending their belts. Okay, fighters are losing fights to mental illness, and that's why they don't get to fight. So they're away from the ring for 2 years. That's what we got right now. The middleweight champion of the world is out due to mental illness. From Robinson, dude, we've gone from Ray Robinson to Hagler to Hopkins to this shit. But it's nostalgia. Fuck you. It's nostalgic because it was great. People remember great things. No one's going to be nostalgic about this fucking era. 40 years from now, if anyone is still watching boxing, no one's going to be like, oh, yeah, remember those days? The golden era of boxing? Man, nobody's gonna accuse them of being nostalgic. This shit is stupid. At the end of the day, I'm watching our sport, right? If we're not building fighters, well, what are we building? Entertainers then? So it's just WWE. That's all it is. We're building entertainers like singers and dancers, and that's what we're doing. We're like selling concerts, selling a show like WrestleMania. Like that's what we're doing. That's what it's become. Am I wrong, Kelly?
You're not. And when your lone fight of a calendar year is, and you're a champion against a 0-0 guy, you don't have any forgiveness. You don't have a parachute. You don't have a safety net if you wet the bed. You don't. So for the people who are out there who are acting confused as to why we're saying the stuff we're saying right now, why I said some of the stuff I said on Twitter yesterday. And shout out to Andre Rodriguez, by the way. I appreciate the super chat. Can't say much for the sweet science. And why we are saying it's embarrassing where we're at. And why I sound like a broken record when I bring up fighter inactivity and the lack of fights throughout boxing, pound for pound list, and on the heavyweight list. There's going to be Tyson Fury super fans out there, and some of them hit me yesterday. And one thing I noticed, by the way, is the Tyson Fury super fans don't know what to do with Tyson Fury critics who aren't fans of other heavyweight fighters. Because I'm just not a fan of this division. So they'll throw stuff at you like, oh, just wait to see what Tyson Fury does against Usyk, and let's see if you keep that same energy. Dude, I have no, I'm not a Usyk fan either. I thought he looked okay against Dubois. He's fought 4 times in the past 4 years. I mean, I don't have any allegiance to him either. So do you know what happens if Fury just mutilates Usyk in February? They're going to say, like, this is the best guy you have to offer. This is now the lineal undisputed heavyweight champion. And our guy beat him coming off the street, 22 months active, retired. Do you understand? Like, but they don't care because they have their fighters. They have their fighters, and they're going to keep their allegiance to those certain fighters, and they're going to forgive and go out and explain. And that's the confusing thing to us, right? Is I gravitate towards the easy relationships in boxing. The easy boxer and fight fan relationship is I just give Canelo money. I know he's going to fight the fights. So it's an easy relationship, right? I don't understand these relationships that are difficult to explain. It's like we talk about this we always use this example. It's like the woman who continues to get beat by the man, and we all see the police show up at her house regularly, and we all know what's going on, and she has to come out and explain with black eyes as to why she keeps going back to that guy. Why are you out here forgiving and explaining away Tyson Fury retiring or hiring a new trainer one day and then retiring the next day, holding belts hostage as he's retired? Why are you explaining away the WBC allowing him to do that? Why are you explaining away why the WBC is allowing him to fight the only fight this calendar year against a guy who's 0-0 and keep the belt? Why are you explaining these things away? We don't understand. It's the Tank relationship too, right? It's like, why are you explaining? Why?
Yeah,
why are you doing this? There's no forgiveness from us. Things are moving right, fast now for us. It's the marination. I even see journalists doing this, D-style. They'll say like, oh, we couldn't. I understand why Bud and Errol is happening now instead of 3 years ago. You need to understand. No, I don't understand. Make the fights. Look at what we've got now, D-style, for undisputed.
Yeah, but let me
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, look, just really quick. I want to make sure people understand. When I make the point about Wilder starting late, and keep in mind, I'm making multiple points, right? So Just because a fighter in the past started late, like Hagler, Lennox was best. Like I'm not sure what you're trying to say. Like Hagler's one of the greatest middleweights of all time, and if you follow his career path, he earned his stripes. In the
Yeah.
70s, he was always ranked. In the 80s, he became that dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like yes, there's fighters in the past that started later. Some started when they were young, but the machine that was boxing, the machine that was building fighters, okay, was a superior machine. There was not a watered down system. Think about how watered down everything already is. We already have 4 belts. That already makes it watered down.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, we don't even have a real ranking system. We see fighters like phantoms appear number 2, number 3 out of nowhere without even earning that spot. Like they just get put there, right? And we know why. Like it's not even a good secret of boxing that
Mm-hmm.
the sanctioning bodies are paid. Okay. Okay, because people know people and they put people or their fighters where they want them. It's not like this nice deep secret. Like we know what's going on. They're doing it right in front of us now in this era. They don't even care
Yeah.
anymore. They're just doing
Right
it.
front.
And why is that relevant? Because not only is that already watered down. What point was I making? I said, look at what we're doing. Ryan Garcia comes off a loss, embarrassing loss, takes a knee, doesn't want to continue, no problem, right? Or something goes a legit shot, whatever it is. But he took a beat down by Tank Davis in a non-title fight, catchweight fight. And then we have boxing fans, journalists, advocating advocating for Rolly Romero versus Ryan Garcia. They're advocating for, we got to do it. It's a big fight. Hey, it's a business. The business comes first. It's not a sport. I mean, this isn't a sport anyway. Let's just make this fight. It's a big fight. It's in the South. They're going to talk shit. Raleigh's going to talk shit. Ryan's a big pay-per-view star now. Let's do that fight. Like that's not rational thinking. People that think that way have been programmed to think that way, right? No one normal just thinks that way. You've been fed information and it's been instilled in you in order for you to think that way. No, any legitimate sport, which unfortunately we cannot call boxing, it is what it is, but any legitimate sport would have said, no, that was wrong. He didn't even stop that dude. He wasn't even landing punches when it was stopped. At the very least, we're going to run it back with him. Ryan Garcia, yeah, you're popular like the Dallas Cowboys and the Yankees or whatever, but you don't get the title shot just because. In a real legitimate sport, there would be a process, right? Like, we don't even know the process, bro. Everything
It's
is, who are the names, just put them in there. And here's why I'm saying this. I'm coming full circle. Here's the reality, right? Average fighter in the UFC becomes UFC champion. He's a bigger name by default than 95% of boxers. Just like that. Overnight, because they have one champion, it's one organization, so everybody knows who they are. O'Malley becomes champion. Overnight, his stock raises significantly. He has more followers on Twitter than 99% of boxers, right? So if O'Malley says, I want to fight Tank, which he's already saying, I'd love to fight him. Us, we're saying, man, we want Tank to fight fucking Haney. We want to fight Shakur. We want a real fight here, right? It's now become more difficult, Calix. Here's why. Because now the justification is, and this is where boxing has put itself. Well, Molly's a big name. In the sport of boxing, right? You guys clearly don't reward the best versus the best. I mean, Crawford Spence only did 600,000. I mean, Lomachenko Haney only did 150,000. But when you got followers on Twitter, people know you're a big name, you're a big star.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis, baby. Well, now, what do you say when a UFC guy says, "Look, I got more followers than all the other dudes in your division. I'm a bigger name, and I think you and I could do big business. A crossover pay per view would sell more than all those other guys." And you know what? It's going to be hard to disagree with that. Number one. Second, if we say, "Look, bro, you didn't have a shot against Tank. Go sit your ass over there," you know what they're going to say? That's what you said about Fury and Ngannou. And look at y'all now. Look at stupid. So who are you to tell us? We think he could win, just like we thought Francis could win. So how about we do the fight? That's going to be the justification to make it. It's not about fighters going out of the way to beat Captain Save-A-Hole for Fury. No, it's about the reality of MMA fighters knowing there's a payday looming. If they get a fight with Tank, if they get a fight with Canelo, it'll be just like with Ngannou, it's going to be a life-changing payday for them, right? They know they have a name. They know they'll be able to bring that MMA fan base with them. Okay, they know they have a big following. They know they're a bigger draw than maybe most of the other guys Tank could fight. So there's a justification business-wise to make that fight.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not due to substance. But boxing hasn't been about substance in years.
No.
Like, that's just a reality, bro. And that's why I believe we're going to get a string of these type of fights. I think it's going to happen. I think, brace yourself, Calvin. That's coming.
I understand it is what it is, right? I get it. I understand every empire ends up falling because of what happens within. It's not destroyed from the outside, it's from within. So boxing at the end of the day has boxing to blame from where we're at. And yesterday, I still see people kind of blind to this or not realizing exactly what happened yesterday and why it was bad. I think they will over time. Yesterday exposed a lot of our flaws, even more so than people have yet to unbox, because there's a lot of stuff going on with Saudi that's going to end up not being good for the sport, and people are trying to prop it up as good. I'm just telling you, beware. It gets worse than what you just said as far as confusion, because we can't even agree on who the lineal heavyweight champion is right now, D-Style. You had people arguing about that going into the fight. Was it broken with Fury's retirement? Was it not? And that's an important thing. Like, who is the guy? Who beat the guy who beat the guy? And we can't even agree on that. That's how broken this is. And we're now limping into undisputed. Alexander Usyk, there was controversy behind his last fight. In a fight he was heavily favored. And like legit controversy, because it was a battle back and forth between people who know what they're looking at, like low blow, no low blow against Dubois. And then we have this, and this is the problem, is we don't learn. And people still think it's a good idea to marinate fights, and now we're limping into undisputed. And we should have had undisputed 20 times over by now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm watching Tyson Fury's career, and I'm like, good Lord, man. Like, don't we deserve better than a heavyweight champion like this? And who is out there? Like, they're all halfway out the door as it is. You can say Usyk, but he's got one foot out the door.
No one's that good, Calvin. Like
nobody's that good, but it doesn't even involve like talent. It's like, can we get like a good value-based fighter who just says, man, I'm gonna just fight the fights? And we kind of got that with Anthony Joshua, but then he can't win the big fight. I get it. But you're right, it's a mixture of both. But we deserve better than we're getting, and we're just getting abused. And I'm watching this yesterday, and I'm like, good Lord, man, it's because bad.
What a lot of people don't understand is that, like, and it goes for everybody in the chat, and like we don't need to watch this. Like we could like walk away tomorrow and overnight fights like Foster, Rocky Hernandez mean nothing, which we're going to talk about tomorrow. We're going to dedicate short of that, right? But overnight, because casuals don't watch those type of fights. They don't see the best of boxing. They don't see Inoue like that. They don't see Valdez versus Navarrete. They don't like it's just a reality. The only ones watching are the hardcore boxing fans. The only ones that understand all this are the hardcore boxing fans. But here's the thing. Here's what happened. Tyson Fury took a big dump in the middle of the ring, and he left a stench.
Yeah,
Right,
he
like he
did.
left an ugly stench.
Yes, he did.
So he needs to clean it up. He needs to
Yes, he
do it,
does.
and this is what he needs to do. He needs to go train, get in much better shape, because obviously the shape you were in didn't cut it, right? And you need to go back out there and you need to destroy this guy. That's what you need to do.
Yeah.
That's the only way you can repair this. That's it.
I get that,
That's
but
it.
man, I need to see these fights go away. I understand there's a market
It
for it. I
needs to
get it.
happen, Calix. Like in this case, you need to agree with me. It needs to happen. He needs to clean it up.
And
Otherwise, that pile of shit's going to stay there forever.
and look, if they want to do it, look, Fury and Ngannou too, whatever. But what I need to see is this genie to go somewhere in the box, because if this sticks around like this and like you say it grows and then we see more big name fighters do this stuff instead of focusing on what truly matters of the sport and actually fighting fights and at least having their values align with the hardcore boxing fans in fighting legacy fights. um if I start to see Canelo fight a McGregor, if I see a Tank fight on O'Malley,
Look, I don't like it either, Calix.
I don't like it either, but we
it's coming.
really need big name value based fighters who say, you know what, man, that's beneath me. And so far, that's what Canelo's doing. Like that's beneath me. Like,
Yeah, but
look,
I
we can
think
get to it eventually, and we'll just call it an exhibition, like on the back end. After I fight Benavidez, maybe
I think
Bud.
you're missing something big. Like I think even you're missing it. I don't think you understand. I don't. Like at this point, it's no longer about that right now, Calix. And I think a lot of boxing
I know
fans are
that.
missing. No, like this is what happened. Like the legitimacy of the sport is in question because of this. Because of that pile of shit that was taken in the middle of that ring. And just for the record, I did score for Fury, but it doesn't matter. I shouldn't have to have a debate with somebody about who won.
Dudes are out there bringing out the criteria of scoring, and it's like, bro, you're bringing out the criteria of scoring.
Like it shouldn't be like that. But like, let me like it's more serious than people think, Alex. It's more serious. Like it's like Michael Jordan in his prime. Randy Moss challenges him to a one-on-one basketball game of 21. Is he going to be dunking it all over Michael Jordan? And is it going to be a controversial game that Michael wins because the ref made a questionable call, but people are saying Randy should have won? Is it really going to be that type of like game?
No.
All these athletes that pick up golf and play it very seriously, by the way, world-class athletes, they play golf all the time.
Yeah.
Can't fuck with Tiger Woods. That's what he does. You can't fuck with that, dude. You just can't fuck with the top golfers in the world.
Mm-mm.
Top tennis player in the world. They ain't no. You get LeBron James. You get the best NBA athlete. Throw him. He ain't gonna be. It ain't gonna be competitive. Nothing. Like it's just the truth. Any other legitimate sport, this doesn't happen. And that needs to be acknowledged, because the only way to fix the problem is to acknowledge it. Like that's the reality. And I don't think people understand what happened. This is damaging. Like a lot of casuals are going to look at boxing, or they're already. A lot of them already were. But now it's like this sport it's turned into a joke. And a lot of those casuals are well aware of the narratives that this guy is better than Ali, and they were already like scratching their head. Like I have family members that watched Fury fight before, and they were like, look, he's all right, but I mean, better than Ali, like, and these were not people with like, they're just people that seen Ali fights. You get what I'm saying? And they're just watching from the outside looking in. And they're watching this guy. And they don't see like the greatest of all time. Like that's just not. They're not seeing it, right? And if there was any doubt in the back before, boxing fans, a lot of Fury fans would do the smoke and mirrors. Oh no, that's nostalgia. It's nostalgia. Don't believe in nostalgia. Because you don't understand the sweet science of what Fury's doing and how great it is. Like, you can't even say that. Like, you can't even open your mouth and talk about that after this. There's an old saying, and it's actually a saying in boxing. In the ring, the truth will find you. Eventually, the truth comes out, right? Look at this. I barely gave this dude that fight. Barely. Alex, that gave it to Ngannou, that knockdown right there. He's huffing and puffing because he was out of shape. But it doesn't even matter. It's embarrassing. The most embarrassing day. I was so embarrassed. I didn't realize you could become so embarrassed that you become desensitized to the insults. Like, I was so embarrassed that I felt like I deserved, like boxing deserves to get shit around. That's how embarrassed I was. Like you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was like, MMA fans start talking shit. Oh, yo, what happened to you? Yeah, you're right. I think you're being too nice. I think you're being a little too, thank you for the mercy. Some MMA fans are even showing mercy, Alex. It's worse than before. Before, they were battling with us. Oh, now a lot of them are feeling sorry for us. Like, damn, like one of our dudes went over there and like, you could argue won the fight against their best. And get, you know what they're doing, Alex? They're running with the whole, like, he's the best heavyweight of all time narrative, too. It fits their narrative. Like, yeah, boxing fans that know what they're talking about, they say that's the best guy ever. I heard them say it. Like, they said it. Like journalists, boxing journalists that cover boxing for a living, they get paid to do it. They said this guy's the best of ever. Like, not even Ali could beat this guy. And Ngannou beat him. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, you guys made the turd in the middle of the ring even worse, bro. Look, the shit's crazy, bro. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And look,
if he could have taken imagine what Shavers would do to this dude. For God's sake, imagine what fucking Foreman would do to this guy if he clocks him like that.
And look, I understand. I fully get it. The people who say Tyson Fury fights down his level of competition. Look, he just was. But like I said, when you fight once a year and your fight is against a guy who's 0-0, you can't put up. You can't, like you say, take a dump in the middle of the ring. You get zero forgiveness. I want to make this perfectly clear. I want nothing to do with the whole boxing versus MMA thing. I have respect for the MMA dudes. Shout out to Duval Grind MMA in the chat. I got nothing but love for the MMA dudes, UFC dudes, and that's not my war. It's not my battle, and it's why I'm not pushing back on any of this. And quite frankly, I've been laughing along with them the past 24 years, because we have a complex.
Laughter.
It may be, but I think boxing fans have a complex as to, we can talk about the ills of boxing, but then when, say, MMA dudes do it, we say, whoa, not you. You can't do it. Have at it. We deserve it. Especially if the past 24 hours.
Way, have
at it.
Boxing needs a reality check. Like, everyone involved, and it's funny how it's just like a domino effect right now. It's all happening at once. Like, Showtime goes down, and then now Fury literally goes down. Fucking, it was just a domino effect. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, I'm trying to see what the light at the end of the tunnel is, and I don't know. It looks dark, Alex. Like it's like, man, when is the light going to come out? Like, you know what I mean? Hey, light, you know, are you there? Like, I want to open the book of Genesis. Let there be light. You know what I mean? Something. Give me something. You know what I mean? Like, give me, even for a second, and it turns out to be a firefly. Fuck it. But give me a second of hope. Anything. I can't find it, bro. I am watching what was once a top 3 most popular sport behind horse racing and baseball turn into a joke in front of my very eyes. And it's unfair to the fighters that are not a joke. It's unfair to the Terrence Crawfords. It's unfair to the Canelo Alvarez's. It's unfair to the Arthur Betterbeeves. It's unfair to the Naoya Inoue's, to the Gallo Estradas, okay, to the Bam Rodriguez's. It's unfair to them, to the Devin Haney's, to the Lomachenkos, guys who have a respect for the craft. The guys that fought later that night, Foster and Rocky Hernandez, it's unfair to them because those guys aren't jokes. Those guys are warriors, and they're pouring everything they got for the sport. And the sport is not, it's not rewarding them. The powers that be is not rewarding that behavior, and they should start. Stop going the cheap money route like Saudi Arabia. It's cheap. If you don't mind, I want to talk a little bit about the whole Saudi thing.
Look. Yes, we need to. But before we do that, sure. Can I make one thing clear and keep that? And then that's a perfect segue because I want to talk about that. I want to make this clear also. I made clear I don't have any type of war with the UFC guys. None at all. I wish them nothing but success.
Look, a lot of UFC fans are also boxing fans.
Yes.
It's just that a lot of them, they can see clearly now. Like they see a lot of the bullshit we talk about.
Yes. But this is bigger than just that guy laying on the canvas down there, right there. This isn't like right there. This has been coming for a while. And it's not just crossover fights. It represents everything that's wrong with the sport. We talk about, and we'll talk about tomorrow, how Shock Foster versus Rocky Hernandez represents everything that's right about it. And ironically happened in the same day, right? That dichotomy. But it represents marination. It represents chasing the bag. It represents daring to be great, right? Francis Ngannou. It represents just all flash, no substance. And that's what boxing has become. And I feel like we're on a train that we can't get off of. The power brokers have complete control over it. The Tyson Furies and the Floyd Mayweathers, the late stage Floyd Mayweathers, the guys who brag about low risk, high reward, the Tank Davises, the Leonard Ellerbys, the Al Haymans, the Bob Arums, and the Frank Warrens, who were responsible for yesterday. They all have control of the wheel, and we're in it. And we're begging, can we please go somewhere else? I don't like what I'm seeing out of this window right now. Can we please go somewhere else, somewhere greener pastures and bluer skies? And then, no, you can't. It's bigger. I want people to understand it's not just us coming out and saying, this is stuff we talked about for years now on these channels, is these fighters are softer than ever. These fighters are being pampered more than ever. The standards for them are lower than ever. And we talk to other boxing fans who have this Stockholm syndrome, and it's like, don't you want more than a heavyweight champion who has 6 title fights in his whole career? And over half of them are rematches and barely ever fights, and he's going to fight a guy who's 0-0. Don't you think that Deontay Wilder needs to do a little more to get in the Hall of Fame than wins against Bramani Stavern and Luis Ortiz? Like, don't you feel like you need to demand a little more? So is it surprising? Is it surprising when a guy is being told by journalists that he's the greatest heavyweight of his era, which by the way, is he the greatest heavyweight of even his era? Is he?
We don't know because they haven't fought. They all haven't fought.
Anthony Joshua has twice as many titles fights as him. I understand he has losses. He has losses, but these dudes are being called the greatest fighters, all-time greats. Tank Davis is in pound for pound lists for God only knows what reason. And we're wondering why they're crapping the bed. And we're wondering why they're putting on crappy performances. What do you expect? What do you expect? And then, perfect segue of why I don't think we're getting off this train anytime soon. And you can talk about the Saudi thing. You brought it up. Perfect. Let's talk about it. I'm watching this yesterday and I'm saying to myself, this is bad news. This is bad. And I want to get excited about it, right? Because it's quite the spectacle. And I'm glad they're making fights that, quite frankly, some of them weren't getting made by power brokers over here.
Yeah, so check it out. Look.
Go ahead and start it off.
So first of all, let me start off with the lead up. There's some nuance to this. So look, was it cool to see all the legends out there taking pictures and yes, right? It was. Am I happy for them that they got a one more bag? I guess they got paid to have a free vacation. Sure.
And they did get paid.
I think Roberto Duran and I don't think Chavez was there, but Duran, whoever was there, Ray Leonard, a lot of them were there.
Lennox.
Yeah, like do they even the UFC guys, Chuck Liddell, do those guys deserve like a good vacation for everything they've contributed to their respective sports? Sure, I don't, I'm not mad about that. Like that's cool. You know what I mean? Good for you. However, we need to acknowledge what it is. Like let's just acknowledge it for what it is. Like let's not let's not pretend like they weren't paid to be there, right? Stop pretending like they all just showed up because it was the place to be, and they, you know what I mean? Like
Kanye and Eminem.
Yeah. Like, oh, I had to be there, so no. Oh, and I forgot about the celebrities. They were paid to be there, right? There was very, and maybe not all of them, and maybe there is some that went after they saw all the cool. Who knows, right? But for the most part, a lot of those people were paid to be there. Cool, no problem. I just want to make sure I'm not hating because I know why you hating. Like it's not that I'm hating. It's just you need to acknowledge that they weren't there because it was like one of those big fights in Vegas where the stars show up, right? Because it's the place to be. That's not what it was. They were paid to be there by the Saudis. Point blank, Tyson was paid a lot of money. And look, I think Tyson deserves every penny of it. Good for him. Cool. But let's acknowledge that he was paid to be there. Mm-hmm. Why is that relevant, right? Because they're manufacturing all this. That's why it matters.
Yep.
And when you manufacture shit, that's why you get that lack of energy that you didn't have in the crowd. Because it's manufactured. Right? And that's what they're trying to manufacture something great, right? Which is possible. And I think they pulled it off because that must have been paradise for any journalist out there with all those names out there. And good for those journalists, right?
A lot of clicks.
But at the end of the day, that was 100% manufactured. You could say that's smart. You call it whatever you want to call it. But you can't deny that it was manufactured. Oh, well, what about Eddie Hearn with pizza? Okay, I'm sure everyone's been guilty of pain, and I don't think any of them should be manufacturing the shit anyway. That's number one, right? I think everything should be organic because when things are organic, you get a real gauge of how big it is. You get a real organic gauge of the energy. You get a real, because if it was all organic, I wonder if they would have even filled up the seats, quite frankly, if it was all organic. Right? It all seemed like manufactured. And shout out to Aram, like he made it sound like they built Madison Square Garden. Like he made it sound like yeah, the Saudis. I mean, a couple months ago, they said we're gonna do the fight. There was concern, but they said we got it, and they built an arena. I don't know about the UK, but it takes us like 2 years to build an arena in the United States. They did it in a couple of months. That wasn't exactly the Barclays Center. Okay, Bob. Okay, I'm just putting that out there, which is cool. I'm not saying there's anything wrong. That was just a side note, but it's just I don't like manufactured feelings, Calix. Like I get an unease feeling of it. It would be like if everybody in the chat right now was a bot, and you guys are watching, right? Like if everybody in the chat, like if we were paying you to be here, and you're just posting like good vid and I don't know, like whatever, like hi guys, good show, like, and that's all you saw throughout the whole, like over and over again, right? That's what manufactured is. Like we got an organic, hardcore fan base listening to us right now, right? That's what we have right now, right here in the chat or down here, where like for you guys. But it's try to picture like if everyone here was paid to be here to watch HCP, and the audience is watching, and they're like, "Well, why is Duval like just typing hello guys every 2 minutes for it? Like, why is Duval there? Like, what's going on over here? Like, you know what I mean? Lennox's bench just keeps typing like random links to like porn sites like every 4 minutes. Like, what's going on here? Is HCP a real show? What's going on right now?
Look what you started.
Yeah. Nando Llamas, like, is that a real person, or why is he just typing? You know, like hi every 4 minutes. Like, I'm just saying.
No, but it's worse than that. And we always talk about organic versus manufactured, and manufactured is not sustainable, right? And organic is built from the bottom up. It's building fighters from the bottom up, and it's building them through fights. We talk about it all the time. Nando has brought up in the chat how if you just simply put on the fights, that's the way of building stars. David Benavidez didn't need Canelo to become a star. David Benavidez could have made David Benavidez a star if he simply fought the fights. But I'm watching this yesterday, and I'm just doing this math in my head. And of course, I can't do perfect math because I don't know what they're paying Eminem and Kanye and Ronaldo and his beautiful wife and all of these legends who are out there taking these pictures, and Mike Tyson to train Ngannou or at least act like he is. And I'm doing the math in my head. I was like, and I'm doing the math of what it took them to resurrect this building, the ring to come out the ground, and then on top of that, to pay the fighters in their camps. And I'm looking at all this and I'm saying, how is this overhead sustainable? And how long is it going to take them to put on fights like this, right? Because the problem with the Saudis that I see is it leads to more inactivity. It leads to more inflated purses. And the problem that I see, and I'm starting to see this develop, and I fear that I'm going to have to fight these battles with some of my allies, some of my peers, because I think they're becoming what I think they're becoming in a lot of ways what they've said they despise. And a lot of the same problems I see at the very beginning with the Saudis is the problems I saw with the PBC at the beginning. It's like, okay, Al Michaels is there. And then you have all these cool graphics, and you're paying these fighters these inflated purses. And then Errol Spence is going to fight somebody like Phil LaGreco. And I'm like, what the hell is this? What the hell is this? How are they making money off of this? And then all of a sudden you see Al Michaels go away, and then Free Boxing for All goes away. And then I'm watching this with the Saudis yesterday, and I'm like, this is a lot of overhead. And it took them a long time to make fights like this. And they still haven't been able to deliver Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder. And there are only certain points of the year that they can actually do fights in Saudi. And I'm like, it's too unsustainable. It's not sustainable. They can't do it. And it's going to lead to inactivity. It's going to lead to artificial purses. And it's going to lead to fighters waiting for Saudi bags to fall in their lap. And it's going to lead to a lot of these novelty type fights that get us away from our principles as boxing fans, and I feel like we're headed to a direction. It's This is another thing that was alarming for me yesterday in watching this fight. Was it's not only that the heavyweight champion, the greatest heavyweight champion of all time, is losing a fight to a novice. It's not only um, that it's a black eye for boxing. It's just the direction that we're headed in. The trajectory we're headed in is not a good one, and it leads to guys fighting once a year, maybe. It leads to fighters. This reset of pay that y'all are saying is coming, I don't see it. I don't see it. I think guys are going to wait for this Saudi bag. I think promoters are going to realize in order to make the fights we want to make, we got to get in bed with certain outfits, and that's fine as long as it leads to good fights and it leads to a model that makes sense. But this one doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. To me, it's just different faces, but the same model.
Let me tell you what's happened to the heavyweight division. Imagine like nobody was really picking up basketball anymore. Like it wasn't even in high schools. Like it's so unpopular that high schools don't have basketball. Like you know what I mean? Like the only people that play basketball do is play pick up basketball like down the street. You know what I mean? And let's say those guys that you watch down the street are the ones like playing in the NBA, and they're getting paid millions to play in the NBA, right? No NCAA, no. Like, it's not popular in high school. Just straight to the NBA. And there's a guy who's 6'9", and he's dunking. He's the only guy in the league that could dunk it, right? He's dunking it on everybody, right? Like, oh my God, look how he's dunking it. Oh, oh my God. And guys that mean Cal said, whoa, guy, look, he's dunking it on, competitive dudes that play down the street. Like he's not dunking it on like Magic Johnson or something. Like, calm down. Like, oh, you want to dunk it on Magic Easy? Oh, dang. The Showtime Lakers could have stopped this beast. Like, you know what I mean? And the lack of perspective. So no, but like, it's not the same level of athlete, brother. Haven't you seen the way he dunks it? He dunked it on 4 dudes the other night. Like, yeah, but those guys can't even reach the rim. Like, he's playing guys that can't reach the rim, Calix. These 4 top heavyweights have been fighting dudes that can't reach the rim. All right? Just competitive dudes that played in high school. That's how they are. They can't. Some of them can't even touch the net. It is what it is. They could dribble a little bit. They got some skills, right? And they're getting paid a shitload of money, right? They're making imagine they're making more than the Showtime Lakers were making. But they're playing at that level. That's where heavyweight boxing is right now. Literally. They're dunking it on, like, bro, Anthony Joshua just struggled with a guy who was a full-time construction worker like 2 fights ago. Couldn't knock him out. You could argue that's probably worse than struggling with a UFC champion. You could make that argument, bro. Like, I'm just saying, I'm just putting that out there. Maybe that'll spark it. And now the Fury fans, oh yeah, well, he struggled with a construction worker. But construction workers are tough. But they're not supposed to be world-class boxers, or give them a run for the money. We're the distance, bro.
Right? I'm confused though, is why people are confused by the backlash. Is what did you expect? What did you expect? It just seems like there's a whole system out there running that involves the power brokers. We've talked about them. The fighters at the top. We've talked about them. And I'm starting to question whether fighters want to fight real fights and everything that people have been saying. I think fighters enjoy the easy train at the top, a lot of them. But then it gets into the super fans that we talked about, and it also gets into journalists. And when you see through this and you see, no, none of that is what the state run media says. None of that's what the Tyson Fury state-run media says, or the Tank Davis state-run media says. Um, None of that is that, or the Errol Spence state-run media. And you see through it, and then a certain event happens. Of course, we're going to point and laugh. Of course, we're going to laugh at this. Of course, we're going to say, Tyson Fury, you've openly bragged about low risk, high reward. You've openly bragged about robbing the bank. This is what never happened to the Flomos, right? Because the Flomos never got their reckoning because Floyd won, right? Came close a couple times, but he won. He kept the O. But the Deontay Wilder fans know what this is like, right? Because the Deontay Wilder fans got their reckoning. And of course, they made up a million excuses to try to hide what really happened, but they got their reckoning. When the O is that important and you lose it or get close to it, it's bad. But when the Gypsy King, he's sitting there on his throne of lies. And when that throne comes crumbling down, of course, we're going to point and laugh and say, you're not the greatest heavyweight of all time. You may not even be the greatest heavyweight of this era. And on top of that, you bragged about low risk, high reward. And that cherry you thought you were picking, that nice, safe cherry you thought you were picking from the tree, ended up being poison. All right?
Yeah.
And I'm glad it was. And I'm going to sit here and I'm not going to feel bad about it. And it's not nervous laughter for me. I'm going to sit here with the UFC fans. I'm going to sit here with Duval Grind MMA and laugh at the boxing guys. Forgive me if I'm going to do it. I'm going to sit here and say, ha, 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 ha. You were right. This sport is a joke. It's a joke.
Look.
And what you saw yesterday is a microcosm of this sport. It's a country club sport. You've built the country club sport. You've priced people out. Nobody's flying to Saudi to see a fight like this. You price people out. Nobody wants to. Hardcore boxing fans didn't want this fight to begin with. And on top of that, I'll tell you this too. For the Tyson Fury fans who think they can use this maneuver as well and say something like, well, you didn't care about the fight anyway, so why are you talking about it now? No. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. And we're talking about it. And you will never hear us. He will never live this down. Ever. Ever. This is what happens when you don't give us what we want. And it backfires on you. We're going to talk about it. And he's never going to live it down.
Calix,
and I'm glad it happened. I'm glad it happened. I am.
Well, I'm not glad it happened, actually, but I won't go that far myself. But here's the thing. I get that he's responsible, and but he's the captain of the ship, and we're in the Titanic, and this motherfucker hit the iceberg, bro. Now I get, well, it's his fault. Blame him. Like, okay, but like, I don't know if you guys know this. Like, the Titanic's sinking. So we could blame him all day, but like, we gotta fix this problem here. You know, we gotta take some of this water out, or figure out how to get the worthy survivors out of here. Okay, right? Women and children first. All right. So Katie Tater, madam, please get on the life raft. Thank you. Right. Amanda Serrano, get on the life raft. Thank you very much. Okay. Children, sorry, Fury, you're too tall, right? But here's my thing. It's important to know, Calix, that I know what you're saying, but that stench, like, we're gonna be smelling that. Like it is what it is. Like,
it was bound to happen. We did it to ourselves.
No. Look.
An MMA fighter
doing this was not bound to happen. Like nobody saw this happening.
But I know, you're right, and I was wrong about that. Transparent, but at the same time, like, you play with fire that.
But here's what I wanted to ask you. Like one of the biggest pet peeves of mine is when I point out how weak this era is, and it's bad, right? And again, this is not Monday morning quarterback. Like, me and Calix have been talking about this since the Hellstorm days.
Yeah.
About how bad this era is. Okay? Like, unless you want to accuse us of knowing that this was going to happen years ago, or just to do this show. All right? But
I didn't know
I,
this was going to
I,
happen
I always,
yesterday.
I always, I always got to hear this bullshit of like, you think this era was bad? Oh, you should have seen Mike Tyson's era. That era was really bad. Are y'all like fucking stupid, bro? Like only an ignorant person would say that. Tyrell Biggs, I think easily beats Anthony Joshua. I'm sorry. I don't see a, and that's a guy that okay that was knocked out. Okay, by Mike Tyson in the middle rounds. Tony Tucker is a top dog easily in this era. What the fuck is Chisora gonna do to fucking Tony Tucker? Nothing. I don't think Anthony Joshua could fuck with Tony Tucker. I don't. All right. And if Ngannou did that, imagine what Tony Tucker would do to fucking Fury. I'm just saying, bro. Frank Bruno was a good fighter. Even James, like everyone's comparing this Calix to Buster Douglas. No, I get the whole upset thing. I get that, right? I get the fact that the odds were ridiculous for that fight, and they were, all right. But people don't put things in perspective. Like Douglas was in a winning streak, bro. Like he had come off wins over Mike Williams, Trevor Burbick, and Oliver McCall back to back to back. Like he had rounds in. Like he went. Two of those fights were 10 rounds, and he won wide on the scorecard. Like this was a guy that was a prize fighter in a popular sport that had much better athletes than we do today. That's the truth. The reason people remember it as a weak era because they're comparing it to the fucking 70s, bro, when Ali was on top. And then the 90s followed, which is fucking stacked. But Tyson's era, like that Tyson where he was champion, those guys, Chisora wouldn't even be their fucking sparring partner, bro. Like, I'm sorry, Anthony Joshua's carrying the fucking spit bucket. I'm sorry. That's just the truth. I don't think people understand how bad. Like, because when people say, "Oh, that era was bad," again, it's sandwiched in the '80s, heavyweight '80s, is sandwiched between the '70s and the '90s, right? So when you compare to those two monster eras, yes, it looks weak. But those guys, okay, right now we'll be talking about Tony Tucker being a Hall of Famer, bro. And that dude was fighting today. Like that's just the truth. And don't even get me started in the 90s, bro. There's nobody in the top 10 in the 90s that Francis could last 4 rounds with. Nobody. It would be laughable. And you know what else? Like it wouldn't just happen. You wouldn't just walk in and fight the top dude like that. Because things will run differently. Okay? That's just the truth. This shit is stupid. And before somebody brings up the exhibitions Ali did for charity, before you bring that dumb shit up, okay, Ali had mixed fights. Okay, where the Japanese dude was allowed to kick him in the legs. That's a lot different. All right? And even then he performed better than Fury in a boxing match. Shout out to Pulev. He took care of it. He went in there and knocked out Frank Mir. Like shouldn't even have happened, but nonetheless, right? What were people saying? They shouldn't even make that fight. What the fuck were people thinking, right?
Yeah.
What angers me more than anything, Calix, he could have ended all this. He could have ended it. He could have just boom, 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 taking care of business. And that's it. No one's talking about this shit anymore. Ever. No one talks about it anymore. Like I'm just saying. Suppose that.
So let's throw my guy Nando. It's always darkest before dawn. Usyk versus Fury going to be a great fight, and Ngannou a serious money player in boxing now. And good comment. And the reason I bring it up is it possible? And I'm not I think what Nando's doing here is he's just looking at the market and he's saying, all right, Ngannou's a star now. That's obvious. Ngannou's a star. He's a star after this.
Of course, yeah.
And he's gonna make a ton of money. He's gonna make a ton of money. If anybody was the winner yesterday, it's Francis Ngannou. Um, I don't know if there's a dawn coming. I'm not that optimistic, but am I just at a point in 2023 in boxing to where I'm just completely out of touch with a lot of boxing fans at this point? Because it just seems to me like even boxing fans are starting to hop on this wave. The content creators are hopping on this wave. And I'm more of the Glenn Jennings type, right? When he emails you and says, we need to get back to weight class business. I want to see Bud versus Tim Tszyu. I want to see Canelo versus Benavidez. I don't want to see this 3 weight class jump from Bud Crawford to fight Canelo. I don't want to see Tank versus Pacquiao. I don't want to see Inoue versus Tank. Can we please just get back to weight class business? Can we please just get good fights? And I feel like more and more it seems to be, I'm looking around the tent and more people are leaving. More people are leaving. And I'm talking and I'm saying this stuff, and more people are leaving. More people are leaving this tent and saying, nah, I'm okay with Francis Ngannou. You know what? I think Francis Ngannou beats some of the top 10 guys. And, I'm fine with Canelo fighting Conor McGregor because he can go get his bag. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, man, maybe I'm just out of touch. Maybe.
Well, it goes in line with it's a business to do what makes you the most money. Well, a lot of that includes crossover fights with MMA fighters.
I know.
Like that's what you create when fighters start talking a certain language. Like, well, nobody knows who he is. Boxing's a business, bro. Like you don't bring anything to the table. Like what like Leonard Allerby was infamous for that. That's what he says about all these guys when they say, well, why doesn't Tank fight them, right? Yeah. Well, what do they bring? Nobody knows who they are. Well, guess what? O'Malley's gonna raise his hand and be like, people know who I am.
Yeah.
We got people in chat right now. We're more durable. We're better. We're more athletic. So let's just go beat you at your own game. And then there's going to be casuals that buy into that, right? And they're going to believe in that, and they're going to go with it, right? Because the reality is this. Like, Clay Collard was a MMA fighter that had some success in boxing, but eventually when he stepped up against Beck the Bully, he got knocked out. You know what I mean? Like, and there actually has been boxers that have made a transition to MMA, like Holly Holm, and became a world champion over there, right? But they followed a process. Like, they didn't just walk in and do it. Like, she had like 70 fights first, you know what I mean? And years of training in it before that. Jeremy Williams, he had 5 fights in MMA, went 5-0, right? He was a former heavyweight contender, right? So, but no one knows about those because it wasn't marketed like this fight was. It wasn't, and it wasn't against the best, right? Either. I remember Calix when. Do you remember the Frankie Couture? The Frankie. What am I talking about? Frankie. What? Randy Couture against James Toney fight, which was stupid to begin with, right? Everyone knew what was going to happen. Even those boxing fans knew. Maybe there was some delusional boxing fans, but for the most part, we knew what was going to happen. But I remember Randy Couture was being interviewed, right? And they would ask him questions like, Randy, can you really are you really going to bother training for this? Like, you can take him down whenever you want at will and submit him. And are you going to take it serious, really? And you know what Randy said? I'm going to take this very serious because the stakes are higher. I'm going to train for this the way I trained against Liddell, against Tito Ortiz. I'm going to have a game plan. I'm going to have a plan A, B, and C. I'm preparing for everything because I know that if James Toney clips me, he could knock me out, right? So he took it very serious to the point where he brought out the single leg, which wasn't at the time. I don't know about now, but at the time, the single leg wasn't really being used that much in MMA because guys knew how to defend against the single leg, and then it left you in a vulnerable state when you couldn't get the knockdown. So guys would go to double legs. But anyway, to the point where he brought out the single leg for just specifically for James Toney, knowing James Toney's going to come out in a boxing stance, so he could do the single leg on him to take absolutely no risk against James Toney on the feet. Right now, my point is this: that should have been the mentality that Tyson Fury had. Right? I'm going to train just as hard for this as I do for all my other fights. I'm going to take it just as serious, not just lip service. I'm going to get in great shape. I'm going to leave absolutely no stone left unturned. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he ends the bullshit. But that's not what we got at the end of the day. Like
Yeah.
that's isn't what we got. And I think people need to realize that there's going to be more of this, and the only way it's going to end, Calix, is when the boxer does what he's supposed to do. That's when the joke ends. When no one's laughing anymore because Canelo laid out some dude, right? And then everyone's mad at the sport, like, oh, you say he should have done that fight. That guy didn't belong in the ring with him. And then I'll be the first one to come out. Well, I mean, you guys are egging it on, so that's what you get. You don't play boxing. Let's move on, right? But it's no longer you don't play boxing. It's everybody plays boxing, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's making a mockery. That's what we are now. Like social media guys like Jake Paul, and then we have boxing journalists eating it up because he gives them access and maybe he gets some clicks and views, but he's over here hogging attention and selling more pay-per-views and bragging about it. How about all these boxers can't sell? And you know, we got that one Tater guy from Misfits Boxing making fun of Ryan Garcia because he's on pay-per-view. He's not on pay-per-view. That is for his next fight. That is the culture we've built, right? And boxing is responsible for that culture. The moment I saw fighters with somewhat of a name tell really good fighters, really good contenders, you don't deserve a shot because no one knows who you are. The moment that language started being used, and I said this years ago, I've been saying this for a while. It's only a matter of time before outside sources come in and weaponize that. And that's what's happening. And that weaponization is going to cause a lot of these cross promotional fights. That's the way it is, Calix. It's going to happen. Brace yourself. I'm
No,
not
I'm
saying
ready.
I like it. I'm not saying I want it. I hope I'm
Yeah.
wrong, but that's what's going to happen.
No, I'm ready for it, and I know it's coming. Um, I'm not naive to it. And yesterday creates that market. It creates a big market for it. And what do we know? What do we know about boxing's power brokers is they don't care about the sustainability of the sport, and they certainly don't will not hesitate to rape the sport and rob the bank and rob boxing fans. They don't care about any of that. They're going to take advantage. They're going to capitalize off of this market. That's not good for the sport, but it is what it is. I want to make clear though that I don't think boxing's dying. I'm not saying anything like that. I remember a guy one time. I was at a UFC fight party with a bunch of friends, and they had a happened to be another guy there was I was an amateur boxer, and he said boxing will never die because it's an art form. It's an art form, and it is. It's an art form. It's never going to die. It'll always be around in some form, and we'll be around here watching it. But at the same time, you have to understand where we are and that it's not slowing down. You're going to get these fights, as you said. We're going to get a lot of them. We're also going to get, unfortunately, a lot of fans making excuses for it. Um, and the only way I know how to handle this, because it's becoming obvious that more and more boxing fans are okay with this, and the ones that are not are just quietly disappearing here in America. So you don't have too many people out here speaking up and saying, hey, this isn't sustainable. And when we are, we're shouted down, right? We're shouted down by other fans and the power brokers. But the only way I know how to handle this is still to demand what I want and hope I get it. And one thing I think we disagree on, and maybe we don't, I don't know. But you said we need to pay attention to the macro level of this and not get in the weeds as far as making fun of Tyson Fury fans and Tyson Fury and all that. I disagree with that. I think the only way to deal with this is I'm not going to battle with UFC fans. I'm not going to do that because that's not my war. I'm not worried about them. I'm worried about what's happening in this tent, and we need to clean it up. And the only way we could do that is when we shame fighters like Tyson Fury for doing something like what happened yesterday. I wish this fight would have never happened. I wish we would have got Fury versus Usyk, and I need people to understand that Fury, on multiple occasions, has averted big fights, has averted tough fights, multiple times. He owed Vladimir Klitschko a rematch. He disappeared for 3 years. Anthony Joshua, he's changed his tune on that many times. Alexander Usyk, he could have given us undisputed many times over. And this is what happens when you marinate fights. And the more and more we marinate fights, the more I want to see this stuff blown up. The more and more I want to see fighters lose when we marinate fights. The more and more I cheer for a Boo Boo Andre to win just because Benavidez, y'all should have gotten to Canelo on the front end of the 3-fight deal. PBC. I want to see this stuff blown up. And the more and more
Benavidez should have said, I'll go over there to fight him.
Yeah, but the more I see stuff like this, the more I want chaos. So that's why I say, like, forgive me if they have to do this fight yesterday. Forgive me if I'm cheering for Tyson Fury to lose.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I know some people might think that's counterproductive to the good health of boxing, but they're not worried about the health of boxing.
They're not worried about the health of boxing. Look, a lot of great points. I just want to make clear, I'm not telling people don't make fun of Fury. But I've been making, like, what I'm saying is don't lose sight of the macros. What I'm saying, like something bigger happened. Like unfortunately, right? The perception matters, Gallic. If there's a perception amongst casuals, right, that UFC fighters are on par with their boxing as elite boxers.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what in their minds is why even watch boxing? Now we all know this isn't true. Like what people need to understand about Ngannou, and I think Linus was best pointed this out. Ngannou is like he does have something that will always translate into boxing, regardless of what background he come from. He's got power, right? When you could punch and you could hit and it hurts, that translates all the time, right? Hell, even a boxer with a big punch will translate into MMA because they're always going to be able to clip somebody, knock them out. They may bat 500, they may not do it all, but it's going to happen, right? But like not every MMA fighter could punch like Francis. Like, let's just make that clear. Not every MMA fighter fights in a similar division that's as weak as boxing's heavyweight division. You know what I mean? Like there's just a lot of factors here that people need to that people are not going to consider, but casuals don't think that deep. Yep. You know what I mean? It's as simple as 1, 2, 3. Ngannou gave Fury a hell of a fight. They also box in MMA. I'll just watch MMA. Like that is as simple as that. I know it sounds simple, but that's all it is. Like point blank, period.
And what I'm saying is,
yeah,
I don't think we should be worried about that at all. I think we need to focus on what we need to clean up. And Tyson Fury, you're right. He needs to clean up that dump he took in the middle of that ring. He does. He needs to figure that out. He needs to clean that up. That's his penance, right?
You're talking about the tent, but there's a big pile of shit in the middle of the tent.
I understand what you're saying. And Tyson Fury needs to go clean up his mess. But what I'm saying, and I understand the perception. You're absolutely right. But what I'd like to see us do, and I know it's not going to happen, This is going to sound naive because I know it's not going to happen. I'm just telling you what I would like to see happen and what would be more effective. Um, and you're absolutely right. There's a bigger market for this now, and we're going to see a lot of these crossover fights. But what I want to see happen is more fighters do what Canelo has done up to this point, and I hope he continues to do and say, I'm not Mayweather. I'm not Fury. You're not going to get your payday off of me. I'm that is beneath me. That is beneath me. I'm going for legacy. If we want to do some exhibition match after my career or my last fight on the way, whatever, it's not going to count, then fine. Then fine. If that's what people are asking for, then fine. But that is beneath me. I want to see value based fighters at the top say, no, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not partaking in that. It's over. That's over. Tyson Fury, go clean up your mess. After that, it's over. That's what I want to see. We're not going to get it, unfortunately, though, because we're going to have Tank Davises out there say, yeah, I'll go fight O'Malley and make a gazillion dollars. And then Leonard Ellerby is going to be talking it up. And then Al Heyman's going to be raking in the cash. And the Saudis are going to continue to rake in the cash and put up unsustainable purses. And then 5 years from now, we'll get some new faces come in and put more unsustainable purses up. And then we're going to have this country club sport in which we're paying a ton of money and everybody's priced out and we barely see our favorite fighters. That's where we're headed.
Yeah, that's 100% where we're heading. I I'm gonna go as far as to say that even though I don't care for it, and I'm not saying I want it necessarily, we're gonna need a couple of these to get rid of the stench. Like it has to happen. I'm just telling you right now.
Somebody needs
Um,
to get sent to the hospital, right?
now, look, somebody could easily say like, but why? Like guys from kickboxing go to MMA and become champion over there, like all the time. What? Why is boxing so like? Why can't a guy from MMA or kickboxing cross over? And which has happened, by the way. Vitaly was a kickboxer, right? But
All right.
um, um, Troy Dorsey, who gave a lot of boxers hell, came from kickboxing. This isn't as new as people think. Um, the magnitude of this is not necessarily right, but it's happened before. We've had Muay Thai fighters transition to boxing, become world champions. But the difference was, Calix, that all those guys from Troy Dorsey, etc., were part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody skipped the line.
Yeah.
Like the answer that any legitimate sport gives anyone who says, "Well, I want to play, I want part of the big dance." Well, you have to earn it. You have to go through the contenders first. Go through the gauntlet, and then if you earn it, then you earn it, right? If Ngannou needs to go through Joe Joy, Zhang, Henderson, does he get through all those guys? You're forgetting Fury? I don't think he does, right? But since he
I
got
don't
to
think
just
so
skip the
either.
line, he was given his big opportunity. And it's kind of like I think I don't remember if I told you or Beeb this, but I think it was Beeb. I said it's kind of like taking a big risk on your 401k for like such a little return. That's what it feels like as a boxing fan when these fights happen.
Yeah.
Like, well, if he wins, he's supposed to win, but if he doesn't win, or if he looks bad, if he loses a round, or like we're taking a big hit here, and it's like the only one gaining is the fighters because they're getting paid a lot of money, right? But as a fan, like I'm watching this and I'm like, why are we even putting ourselves in this position? Like what eh, we shouldn't put ourselves in that position. Like we just shouldn't.
It's like betting on a 10,000 to 1 underdog, our favorite, 10,001 favorite, $10,000 on them just to win $100, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
that's
what?
what it feels like for us.
I know.
Like, and it's like because look, dude, if he beats Ngannou, no problem. Like makes short work of him. We're not even like celebrating, bro. We're not even like woo, boxing won. We're not even saying it. We're just it's just another Sunday today. It's just like we're talking about Foster. And then we're saying, okay, get in the ring with Usyk, bro. That's all we would be saying. There's nothing to gain out of it. And I remember, like, I had a friend, like, before the Randy Couture James 20 fight. he was like nervous before the bell rang, and I'm like, dude, what are you nervous about? Like Frank, like did I call him Frankie Couture? Randy Couture's gonna win, bro. Like he's like, nah, but you don't understand. Like it's gonna be embarrassing. Like if he clips him, knocks him out, it's embarrassing. This fat old boxer like beats one of our fucking legends here. Like he felt that. You know what I mean? And when it was over, he's like, I hope they don't do that shit anymore. Like it's just like, okay, we proved the point. That's it. We don't got to prove any more points, right? And I just feel like it's gonna come, and we're gonna have Canelo McGregor. I know you don't want to hear it, right? And like, and then like it's gonna be one of those like.
And by the way, McGregor just looks weirder and weirder every time I see him.
Yeah,
Good
he
lord.
does. He's. I don't think McGregor could even take a punch anymore. So getting in the ring with Canelo's stupid anyway. But nonetheless, like we're still gonna like feel it. Like we're gonna be like, can you imagine a scenario where McGregor's styling on Canelo? Like, and can the sport recover from that? And then it's like, which I don't believe happens at all. Actually, I think Canelo knocks him the fuck out. But like, this isn't Fury. He's gonna get it. Like Canelo takes his crowd very serious.
Yeah.
But
He ain't carrying nobody.
do we need to be betting 30,000 to maybe win $1? Like, do we need to be doing that? Like, it's that, like, you know what I mean? Because anything in life, Calix, is chance. It may be very minimal, but it's always there, right? We're here by a miracle, right? So, all I'm saying is everything, there should be firewalls for everything in every sport.
Yeah.
So like, hey, you want to get in boxing? You're going to get in there with a journeyman and slug it out with them. Work your way up the rankings. Get in the top 25. Fight a top 10 guy. And then, hey, you know what? If you knock all those dudes out, then hey, you deserve a title shot. It's a more legitimate fight at that point, right?
Yeah.
But boxing doesn't do that. Why? Because these guys are whores for money, bro. Suleiman, non-profit, my ass, bro. Okay. If you were a non-profit, you would have been in the Shockey Foster fight. You would have been over there, okay, fucking sucking Saudi dick. Okay, that's what you were doing over there. Right? It's just getting old, bro. Like so like I at this point, it is obviously we're not there, but I couldn't imagine like a kickboxer, like just hey, Hopkins, I want a title shot against you, like, and his 19th title defense against some random kickboxer. Like, nah, bro, you're gonna have to like earn the shot. You're gonna have to like go through the rankings. Like, we've lost that because even our own boxers don't go. What the fuck did Raleigh do to get a title shot?
Yeah.
Like, people wanted Ryan off a loss to fight for a title. Makes no sense, bro. So like, those things open the doors for these extreme things, right? You open a Pandora's box. That's what it is. These things don't just happen overnight. I started saying that. These things don't just happen. Like things happen over a course of time that through enablers that enable circus acts like this to happen. And sometimes there's disaster at the circus. In this case, the circus turned on fire. The clowns were running all over the place. They were so embarrassed they canceled the press conference, bro. They canceled the post-fight. He looked embarrassed, bro. He didn't even have like Fury didn't have his usual bass on his voice, like talking shit to Usyk. Like
No.
he just Usyk was just looking at him like, you have to fight me, dude. We signed a contract. That's it. Like you know what I mean? Like you fucking the bag up shouldn't be my problem. But unfortunately, it is. We'll probably not get that fight, and we're going to get a rematch with Ngannou. Calix is this man. It is what it is. And you know what? Fury could go out there and knock Ngannou the fuck out in the first round. Yeah, that's going to scoop up that big pile of shit with the shovel, right? But you know, like when you scoop up shit with a shovel and cement, like if you have a dog and they take a big pile of shit and cement and it's been out in the sun and shit, right? And you get the shovel, you know, but it still has like that outline, you know, that sear, that
Yeah.
brown sear that you get the holes and it doesn't go anywhere, right? Like that's still gonna be there and it's still gonna smell, and it's because of him, because of this guy, right? For all the dudes that said he's better than Ali, I swear to God. Well, God told you something. God, yeah, don't swear to me. Shit, you know what? Let me make this shit happen, and that's what happened. I
So it's
swear
gonna
to
take.
God, he's better. I swear. I swear to
So
God.
you're saying you can't just shovel that up. You got to get the pressure water. You got to get the
You need
hose,
the
and you got to
pressure
put the
wash.
hose. You got to put the hose like at the most extreme
And I'm
setting to
sorry for
get
all the
that up.
details, guys, but that's how bad this was. For the
But
record,
it's a weird market to me completely. Just to kind of come full circle is I got no beef with the UFC dudes at all, and quite frankly, I quite admire them. They got a nice little sustainable sport over there, and I mean they seem cool to me. But I wasn't like Tyson Fury embarrassed himself, and he embarrassed boxing. Um, but I wasn't. I didn't feel it. Maybe this is wrong. I don't know. Maybe my feelings are wrong about this. I didn't feel embarrassed, and not only that, I've joined UFC the UFC chorus the past 24 hours and sort of making fun of some of these things because I think it needs to be highlighted where we're at. And I don't think they can verbalize it properly. That's fine. But I'm having fun trolling Tyson Fury, and I'm not going to apologize for that because I think it needs to be done. But I'll say this too about the whole Fury dynamic is there was once a very promising story here, storyline that I don't think we'll ever be able to get back. And it was completely thrown out the window yesterday. 100%. Because 100% what happened yesterday that we know for sure is the greatest heavyweight of all time that died yesterday. Rest in peace. Arguably the greatest heavyweight of this era that may have died too yesterday. Maybe we'll see how that goes. So a lot of things died, but another thing that's died over the years, and it came to its climax yesterday, is when he beat. And I remember talking to 916 Chris, rest in peace to him, about when Tyson Fury, it was right before Halloween, maybe 2010, 2011, we did a podcast on science of violence. And he's talking about Tyson Fury, and we're talking about his fight with like Rich Power, I think his name was, or Max Power, somebody like that. And Tyson Fury looked terrible in that fight. He was a young guy coming up. It was a 4-round fight. The referee was the judge too, and he almost fell out the ring. And I'm saying, what is this guy? And then a couple years later, he fight even getting knocked down by Cunningham. I'm saying, I'm seeing development here from Tyson Fury. And then he beats Klitschko, and I'm saying, this is a story here. The Gypsy King, Tyson Fury. It's a great name. It's a great family dynamic they got going here. And then years later, we're looking at it now after everything he's put the sport through the past couple years, the past 7, 8 years, and all the ups and downs, mostly downs. And we're looking at where Tyson Fury's at. And then we're seeing his dad like moon people at the KSI press conference. And then we're seeing Tommy Fury go life and death with YouTubers. And I'm like, what the hell happened to this family? This family was once a promising boxing family that could have been like boxing royalty. And now we're looking at them and saying, what in the hell happened to your family? And that's what happened yesterday too, is like yesterday was like the microcosm of where the Fury family is currently. And this is what happens when you play with clowns, right? And circus acts. Is Tommy Fury's in that circus act circuit, and now Tyson Fury put himself there yesterday, and this is where we're at. And that's where that's what happens sometimes. And I'm not embarrassed, but boxing should feel embarrassed. Tyson Fury feel embarrassed. The Tyson Fury fanboys should feel embarrassed. They should all feel embarrassed. But I'm not going to sit there and be embarrassed with them. I'm not. I'm not embarrassed. I'm not going to sit there and be embarrassed with them and sit there and sulk with them. It is what it is with that. I'm going to
I, I, I
continue.
I think I think it's a matter of perspective. Um, at the end of the day, Calix, I felt embarrassed. Like I'm not even gonna lie, right? It was an embarrassing day to be a boxing fan. I'll put that out there. Um, Not embarrassment doesn't always mean it's your fault. It doesn't mean it's something you did, right? It's just
Yeah.
something that you're associated with. And the fact of the matter is, I felt embarrassed. I have to be honest. I'm still embarrassed about it. It's astonishing to me. I think basketball fans would be embarrassed if an athlete from another sport played one on one with LeBron or just dunked it on LeBron all night.
Yeah.
They could say, "Nah, I'm embarrassed for LeBron. Nah, I'm not like nah." Like you would be a little bit like, especially if you were saying LeBron was gonna beat him 21-0 in the game of 21, and
Yeah.
LeBron barely beat him 21-20. Right? And it was because of a controversial call from a ref that should have maybe not been called or something like that. And LeBron hit him with an elbow one time when he tried to dunk him on him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think NBA fans would be like, "Damn, that's kind of embarrassing." You know what I mean? It is like I'm just saying. So look, in order for boxing to fix this, obviously fighters need to get more active. The
Yeah.
sport needs to become more popular so it could attract better athletes to the sport, right? In the future. Because we have to ask ourselves, we have a lot of great young fighters right now, but like, how many 12-year-olds right now are saying to themselves, "Yeah, hey, dad, I want to box." Like, how many out there are really saying that? Like, right now? I don't know, right? I have no idea, but I've heard stories. I think I've heard one of these stories from you of young kids that go to Golden Glove tournaments and there's nobody to fight. So
Yeah.
they just give them a medal, right?
Louisiana, Mississippi, it happens. Less than a handful. Yeah. It's three or
Wow.
four kids. Yeah.
That's like, okay, well, hey, you win.
It's so bad that you have Louisiana and Mississippi Golden Gloves now instead of Louisiana having their own and Mississippi having their own. Yeah.
So that's just that's I mean, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So this is why like we it needs to the sport when people say like why do you care? They put these fights on pay-per-view when they shouldn't be on paper. Don't buy it if you don't want to watch it. But because we love like it's hard to understand that we love the sport and we want it to expose as many people as possible, especially if we know it's such a good fight.
Hmm.
Like Benavides' plan should have happened like 3 or 4 years ago, and they could have maybe had a trilogy, and maybe Plant off of that experience or Benavides are better suited to fight Canelo, and they give Canelo a better fight. Canelo gets better off of that himself, and like I'm just saying, but no, like, and we got to get rid of the old culture. See, back in the day, guys would lose, and they would go back to the drawing board and fix their mistake and come back better. So it actually makes the trajectory of improvement faster when you're constantly testing yourself and you take some L's because you go back to the drawing board, fix the mistakes from the L's, and you improve as a fighter rather than wiggling your way around and staying inactive and waiting for the right opportunity because you're protecting that precious zone,
Hmm.
right? It's you develop better the other way at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So point blank period. And I got news for everybody. Like, there's a problem if there's a top 10 and half of them are undefeated, that shouldn't be mathematically possible if they all fight each other.
Right.
At best, one guy should be undefeated. At best, there shouldn't be a multitude of dudes undefeated,
No.
right? So I'm just putting that out there. That is what it is, man. But that's all I got.
Yeah. And um, just to wrap up, this is another conversation that we're going to have too is, I see Duval in the chat cooking and he brings up that somebody he knows taking up MMA instead of boxing. And, that's a lot of people are going to have different stories as to, some people are going to have younger siblings take up boxing. But I think one of the conversations we're going to have too is why are so many more younger kids taking up MMA than boxing right now when boxing at the top pays way better, pays much better. And, I always see boxing fans brag about what boxers get paid. but it speaks to the sustainability and the reach of the UFC to where they're getting the younger kids to invest in MMA now instead of boxing. Even though the boxing crowd, their bragging rights is always, look at what we pay. Look at how Francis Ngannou has to come over here and beg for money. Look at this. But you have younger fighters taking up MMA instead of boxing now in much bigger numbers. So I think that's something we need to keep in mind too. But ultimately, yesterday was embarrassing, um, particularly for Tyson Fury, particularly for boxing. It was not a good day. It was not a good day. It was certainly not what I expected. I understand I'm going to have people tell me, this opens up a different market. It's going to be good for a lot of fighters getting paid. That's not how I look at things, though, as a boxing fan. I don't look at things as, oh, we got a new name in boxing now in Francis Ngannou. We've got more big paydays coming for fighters. We've got a lot of paydays with Saudi money. That's not how I look at all this. How I look at it is any of this sustainable, number one? I understand Saudi can put up a big event. They put on quite a show yesterday, but I look at it, I'm like, how is this going to be sustainable? And it's clearly going to lead to more inactivity and pay-per-views. And on top of that, how I just don't understand how a guy could walk off the street 22 months inactive from his own sport, retired, and pull off a performance like this against a guy who was supposed to be the baddest man on the planet. But it happened. It was quite the shell shock, if we're being honest. And now we got to deal with whatever fallout comes from that. And I don't know what that is. I mean, we're going to find out over time.
I have an
But it's
idea.
certainly not going to be good. It's certainly not going to be good.
Yeah, look, there's always going to be guys that want to look at the good, like, oh, this is great. I love upsets. Theater of the unexpected. Like, come on, like you're not like what payoff you get out of it? You know what I mean? Like, what's like? Come on, like you can't be serious. Is humiliation of the sport worth like oh, you love seeing an underdog win? Like, is it worth it to you? Right? Now, I know people say, oh, it's not humiliating to the sport, it's humiliating Fury. Like, look, people could deflect all they want to me. Right? You could deflect. I get it. It's a defense mechanism. I get it. All right. I'm the reason I'm skipping straight. I'm going straight to the end. I'm not going to go through the 7 stages, Alex, with this. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to go straight to you know what? This sucks. It's unfortunate. You're embarrassed us. I'm embarrassed. All right. Well, okay. Well, where do we go now? Because that's just the best way to deal with shit in life. Just admit that you don't like it. I don't like it. But what are we going to do about it? Right? I'm about solutions. Right? And unfortunately, I don't know if there's any, but we got to talk about it. Fans listen to us, so here we are, and hopefully more of what happened later that night, which we'll talk about tomorrow, right? More of that, because that is what boxing's all about, right? That's what boxing is 100% all about. That was a fight out of a Rocky movie. I mean, that round 12 was amazing.
Yep.
Foster and Hernandez put on a fight that we should be proud of. It should be the main thing everyone's talking about. And you could say, oh, you guys are hypocrites. You're talking about this. Like I said, this stench is here, so we need to talk about it. You know what I mean? It's the elephant in the room. We can't just come on here and talk about Foster Hernandez and pretend like that didn't happen. Like we need to address it, right? But it's been addressed, and it'll probably be addressed more in the future. It'll come up. It'll pop up. I'm sure more fallout's going to come. A lot of UFC/MMA fighters, they're going to be emboldened by this. They're gonna see a light at, like, they're gonna see like, yo, I could get a payday out of this if I really push for a fight against Canelo, against Tank, against anybody. Like if I push for a fight, and it's gonna be those, it's gonna be the Tanks, the Canelos. Like no one's gonna call out better be you. Like it'll be like that's not gonna happen. Like because
Right.
you're not gonna get a payday like that, and yeah, right. But and we're gonna have to like I said this yesterday, and I'll end it with this, Calix. I said this yesterday. If the chances of Canelo taking up a fight with whoever the guy in his division is right now, let's say it's McGregor, if the chance was 0.0000001% chance of happening, I don't know how much higher it is, but it's a lot higher than that now. It could just be 1%. It could be two. It could be 50%. It could be 60%. It could be 20%. I don't know. I don't know what the percentage is, but it's only gone up. And right now, with Showtime being gone, like, what if Amazon's like, hey, Canelo, we'll pay for one of your pay-per-views. If you fight McGregor, shit, we'll do that one.
Yep.
We'll give you 60 million. The old Canelo, I would think Canelo's going to say, nah, I'm good. But there's nothing else going on. If he sees it right in the wall, he sees that's the thing to do now. Even Canelo may just be like, well, look, I try to give people some old school throwback type shit, but if this is what you guys want, if this is what the market wants, then fuck it, motherfuckers. I can do what I want. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you may just do it. I'm just saying.
You're absolutely right about that. And I guarantee you that there have been people in his ear for a long time asking him to take fights like that. I guarantee it. They're looking at the market. They're saying you could take much easier fights and get similar praise for it, just like your peers. You can rob the bank. You can go low risk, high reward. Um, but I hope we continue to have at least some value based fighters with values, right? With morals, with a code. A man's got to have a code. A man's got to have a code. That was said in The Wire, and it's true. And hopefully, some of these fighters have a code and care about legacy, and we get at least some of that. As long as we get at least some of that, I'll stick around for it. But we'll see. And we'll be back tomorrow. Appreciate y'all for rolling through on this Sunday evening. God bless. Peace.